Hello, my beautiful friend, and welcome back to another episode on my Challenge Your Norm podcast, where today I want to speak with you about certain lessons I have learned when it comes to being alone versus being with someone. With people. And this episode is for anyone who is in a place where they are wanting to potentially reconnect with themselves more. Maybe someone who has moved away from their family and friends to a new city, starting over and feeling like they have a lot more time by themselves now. Maybe it's for someone who is going through a breakup, who's been with someone for a while and now is entering this new era of their life where they are about to or in the midst of spending a lot more time by themselves. And the reason that I am creating this podcast episode at this very moment is because if you have been following me from the beginning of this year, you know that I spent the first many months of this year up until mid-August traveling around with my partner. And after we completed our trip in Bali, I came back to Los Angeles and he went back to Greece. He's been here for a little bit, but has spent majority of his time back in Greece, which is where he's from. And I have had a lot of time living solo. And when you are adjusting from a time where you're constantly with someone to then suddenly spending a lot of time alone, that time can feel challenging. Or with certain tools and focuses, it can be very powerful and life transformative. And to finish my sentence that I just started on and never completed is that the reason I am creating this episode at this very moment is because I'm in the midst of my final week by myself before he's coming back here in Los Angeles. And I have my own 2-bedroom apartment here in LA. So I have been really living solo for these months. And there was an adjustment period where I went from being with this person all the time to being completely by myself for the most part. Of course, I have friends here, which is beautiful and amazing, but I work from home and I live alone. So it is a big adjustment to now suddenly he's coming back and living in my apartment. So there's going to be another adjustment phase. But what I want to focus on in today's episode, and I've written down 10 different things that are positive when it comes to adjusting to either having lived at home with your family to moving out for the first time and you're by yourself for the first time, or being in a relationship and being by yourself, or maybe being in a long distance relationship, or, living in a house of 5 friends to suddenly for the first time getting your own apartment, or maybe you're going through a divorce and your kids are with your ex-partner for a certain amount of time and they only are with you every second week, or whatever it is that you potentially are going through, or maybe you're someone who just wants to learn to love yourself more and connect with yourself more. I think the things that I'm about to share in this episode could be very useful if and when applying them to your life and focusing on how it can be such a powerful time for you to spend this time with yourself. Hi, my name is Pernilla, and this is my Challenge Your Norm podcast. I'm absolutely obsessed with anything related to personal development. And well, to grow, we got to challenge our norm. And so on this podcast, we chat about life and how we can challenge our normal way of living it to make it greater than we could have ever imagined. Just one little belief, habit, bold move, and challenge at a time. And the first topic that I want to share with you is how it is such a beautiful time to rediscover your independence. Because whether we're living with our family or we're living with a partner or friends, a lot of us tend to just do the thing that maybe potentially they want to do, or the thing that you guys have always done together. And when you suddenly are with yourself, spending this time with yourself, you can actually get to know yourself. When you're so adjusted to maybe potentially people pleasing or fitting in or being easy or doing the thing that you've always done, maybe you haven't asked yourself in a while what you like, what you enjoy, what you want, whether it is a small thing like what you actually enjoy eating for dinner because you're just used to doing what fits the group or this partnership that you were in. Maybe you don't know what you actually enjoy doing in your free time, what hobbies you have because you've been just doing the thing that you had been doing with these people. And this can really be a time where you dive into figuring out who you are, what you enjoy, and also just how capable you are of doing all these things by yourself. It's a time for you to no longer take any other person's opinions or thoughts or wants into consideration, but actually figuring out what you like, what you want. And when you're in the midst of this adjustment phase, it can be very normal to focus on how you miss the other person, how it's hard for you to be by yourself. But as we know, our reality is a result of what we focus on and what we believe. And that's why I'm sharing this with you, because if you focus on how much you miss them and how bad it is to be by yourself, then it's gonna feel that way. But if you start focusing on, wow, this is such a beautiful time for me to get to connect with myself, to really focus on myself, to get to know myself better, then your reality is just going to look so different when you start shifting that perspective and focus and belief about how beautiful of a time and opportunity this is for you to grow and get to know yourself. Which leads me into the second point, which is how beautiful of a time this is for you to start focusing on your personal goals. Sometimes when we're spending time with other people, we enjoy ourselves, right? Like there's no stronger, better feeling than love, whether it's friendship love, family love, or relationship love. Love is just so beautiful and just feels so good. And so it can fill you up. However, what it also can do is sometimes have us neglect other goals, other things that we'd been dreaming about, wanting to do and go for, because we're so comfortable and enjoy this time spent with other people. It can cause us in certain cases to neglect our own personal goals, or it can have us maybe go for it 30% or 50% instead of 100%. And so this adjustment phase, this time for yourself, can really be such a massive opportunity for you to go full on ham. Some people call it beast mode or dark mode or just focus mode, a time where you get so clear on this thing that you want to create, and then you just go full on ham on what that is. You create a plan, and because you don't have to take anyone else into consideration and you can just really focus on yourself during this time, you're going to make such massive progress, both because you're going to have more time to be able to pursue this thing that you want to create. If you're someone who believes in manifestation, when we set a clear goal and it's all we think about and obsess about, there's just some energy created that helps us move us in that direction at a 1,000% faster speed, because we start seeing opportunities and things just start showing up in a way that they hadn't when we weren't fully committed. And during this time where you have the ability to spend all your focus and go into this dark mode, beast mode, you can really make crazy things happen. And I feel that during this time that I have been by myself here in LA, I've really been able to do that. Goals that I have set a long time ago have happened during this time because of that, because I decided to not spend my time being sad. Yes, of course, if I feel sad, I'm not someone who believes that you should ever bury your emotions. I believe you should feel them deeply and work through them. Like if you're angry, you should fight a pillow. You should write down all the reasons why you're angry. You should let it out. If you're sad, you should cry your balls eyes out and you should feel it so deeply. I believe that when we allow ourselves to do that deeply, we can then also choose when we're ready and willing to snap out of it. If you're going through a breakup, for example, it's important that you feel those emotions, that you work through all of the heartbreak that comes with a breakup. If you're leaving your family, that you allow yourself to feel that sadness, but maybe at one point you get sick and tired of feeling that. Or you decide that, okay, I'm allowing myself to still feel that, but in the midst of me feeling that, I can also simultaneously choose to think a better feeling thought. I will simultaneously choose to focus on this goal that I've been neglecting for a while, or that I'm really, really passionate about having come true or growing within. I'm not saying you should completely, not feel your emotions. You should absolutely feel your emotions, whatever it is that you're feeling. But this really can be a beautiful time to then hone in on something that you're passionate about, something that you know deep down. Maybe your intuition is just telling you, you got to go for it. And maybe you don't even know why yet. But we won't know why until we've done the thing, because only then will we actually get to experience what gifts were waiting for us as we were procrastinating this thing, going for it full on ham. So my question to you is, what is a goal that you've been neglecting? And if you don't know a goal that you've been neglecting, I want to ask you, what is something that you're curious about? I believe that curiosity has been the thing that's led me towards all of my passions today. I believe that everything starts with curiosity. Curiosity towards, that looks cool what that person did over there. I would wish I maybe could try that one day. Or, drawing and painting, I think would be interesting to explore and try and get good at. Let me give that a try. And I believe that the more time and energy we put into something, the more passion can be built. And so if you don't know what your passion is or the thing that you want to go for is, just follow your curiosity. Let your curiosity lead and try out a bunch of things. And I am a recovering lazy person. So I know what it feels like to think that it doesn't really matter anyway. What will come out of me going to this class or trying this thing or, doing this thing that actually is kind of uncomfortable for me? Trust me, I know what that feels like, but it has always been on the other side of me overcoming my lazy brain that big, incredible, life-changing things have come into my life. And it starts small. It starts of like just that little like hunch thought of like, oh, maybe I should try this, like the curiosity thought potentially. And then the more I go for it, the more energy I put into it, the more time spent on that thing, the more my passion develops, the more my excitement and commitment towards it expands. So, what is the thing that you feel called to go for? Now, before I go into the third out of 10, I promise these are all related. So it won't be a 3-hour long podcast, or at least I'll try for it not to be. But I want to share that just yesterday, I had one of my challenger calls. If you're new to this podcast, I run these monthly challenges. Well, it's a community. People join month after month. Once they've signed up for 1 month, they tend to continue the journey with us because they realize this is a lifestyle and there's always more to dive into in these challenges. And yesterday I had a conversation with some of these challengers. I'll just share a couple of words that some of these challengers who've been with me for many months at this point, what they shared, how it's impacted their life, starting to journal, being consistent with their workout routine, setting clear goals, finding these simple, easy, nutritional daily choices, ways of going about it. So I'll stop speaking now and I'll let you listen to their words, and then we're going to get right back into more incredible ways in which you can make this time spent by yourself be life transformational. So we'll be right back.
I thought one area that I really was good in was like the meditation and journal, etc. But then this took me to a next level, like the prompts, everything. It takes it so much deeper. And now I'm like, I do have reasons already to feel grateful and to feel proud and to feel joyful. Why do I need to wait 3 years to achieve even more? Because I already promised myself 7 years ago I would feel this way if I attain all these things that seemed like a dream back then. So it just shook me. I'm like, it's not an exercise. I need to feel these things every day because that was my promise to myself. So yeah, just committed here out loud. I'm gonna feel grateful and proud and joyful every morning and every day. So that's my commitment.
This challenge is really holistic with all different kinds. It's workout, but already seeing inside from all the spots, everything.
Since starting with your challenges in September, I've lost 20 pounds. It's just so good. I still feel like I don't have like a number that I want to keep. I'm still working on recomping. Like I definitely want my body fat percentage down further. So anyway, this program has helped so much. Like my whole life is so different, it really is like life program, the journaling, everything.
For me, such a big value of this community is that reminder of it's okay to go in for what you want in life. It's okay to go in for what truly resonates with you, whether that is taking care of yourself, taking care of your body, taking care of your health. I absolutely agree with that. Sometimes I feel maybe if I choose a chicken salad or a water, I feel boring or lame. And it's okay to be boring. It's okay to be lame. If this is truly what you want and this is truly what the life that you want, 100%. I think that's something that I really get from this group and this community.
The biggest thing has been the journaling. I used to journal, but more about like the struggles, not about like what makes you grateful and what would make you feel proud of yourself, you know? So I noticed that my mind usually it goes in the kind of the negative direction, or it goes there and then I kind of just keep on going, you know? Like I have a doubt and then I just keep on going. So this journaling has been really good for me because it's not usually how I start my day. And I notice a big shift. And I only started in December. So it's been very, very helpful. And yeah, it's just been nice to be a part of the group. I think that's the biggest thing for me is like not necessarily like the physical discipline, that kind of stuff. I feel like I have that, but the mental and the kind of like encouraging myself and that kind of stuff, that's like where I need some work. So that's one of the main reasons I joined is like to really be a part of a group that also wants to support other people and encourage themselves and so on. So it's been very nice to be a part of it.
And we're back with the third powerful focus point during this time of your life, being solo, which, by the way, you should do it whether you're solo or you're with people all the time. These habits and thoughts and focuses are powerful no matter what. I think you should do it regardless of where you are in life. But the third one is deep self-reflection, learning and getting to focus on what are your values, what are your deep-rooted needs and desires. And I've actually found that the way that I dive into these needs, the way that they come forth into my awareness is typically when I experience something that is not too comfortable, something that is potentially painful, whether that in this case is me feeling lonely. When I'm feeling lonely, I can sit with a journal and ask myself, what is it that I actually am craving right now? What is it that I'm lacking? What is it that I'm needing? And, you know, when you're lonely, oftentimes that is love. And when we're aware that, let's say, we're craving, needing love, we can then ask ourselves, how can I give myself love? What would be something really loving towards myself? And that could be, things that I've done is like taking a warm, nice long bath. I started reading more again, being really just romanticizing life, making everything that I've done feel good and loving towards myself. Sometimes understanding my needs or values or desires have come from, realizing addictive parts, which in the past it's been a lot of overeating, emotional eating. And in those situations, once again, when I catch myself doing that, I can ask myself, what is it that I'm running away from? What is it that I actually need to feel good right now rather than try to get this quick fix to make me feel good temporarily, right? Because when we use food or alcohol or cigarettes or other things that people smoke or whatever addictive things that we tend to do, it's typically a temporary relief. We're escaping from feeling deep-rooted emotions that maybe we've never been taught how to deal with, how to give love and shine a light on and understand. But we can learn to do that by sitting down, maybe meditating, going on a walk, maybe journaling, or whatever else resonates with you, going into nature, spending time with animals, asking yourself, what is it that I'm escaping from? Really getting to know a deeper version of yourself, your deepest needs and desires and values. And I believe we are social creatures. So before we get into the next one, which has to do with that, how can you learn to love yourself more? Ask yourself that. How can you start giving yourself whatever it is that you enjoyed receiving from others? How can you take better care of you? What is it that you actually need? What is it that you actually value? And how can you create a life where you get that? And with that being said, I do believe we're social creatures. And if you are in a stage of life right now where, let's say you moved to a new city and you don't know anyone, either that, or let's say you broke up with someone or you moved away from your family and now you're living by yourself, how can you start to either deepen the relationships and friendships that you have or create new ones? How can you expand your circle? or make an effort to reach out to those friends that maybe potentially you haven't seen in a while, or that you maybe don't feel like you see often enough. Something I've shared a lot on this podcast is that if you're someone who wants new friendships, that can be very challenging, especially if you are an adult. As we get older, it can be just challenging. And just like in my challenges, all of us from all over the world have come together because we have this passion in common. We all want to work on ourselves in these different areas of life. We've come together, and because we have these like-minded goals, we click right away, right? When you get together with people who have similar goals or passions or care about the same things, it can be much easier to click and get along right away. And so if you are wanting to develop new friendships, how can you seek out events, communities, clubs, activities, hobbies that has to do with something that you enjoy? Because the likelihood of you meeting other people that you will get along with or that you will click with because they also will have that same passion for that thing that you have is very, very likely. Whether it's like, I'm going to join a tennis club because I enjoy playing tennis, I'm pretty sure you're going to meet other people who also enjoy playing tennis. And then who knows what kinds of friendship that could lead to. Maybe you seek out self-development events, which is something I've done a lot. Or I mentioned painting or drawing earlier in this episode. If you enjoy that, I know that there are many courses or events or classes that you can take that will have other people in there who are also very passionate about that. Maybe it's a running club, a rowing club. Figure out what it is that you either, like I mentioned, are curious about or that you have a passion for, where you can go meet other individuals that also have that same passion. And something that my life coach shared with me, I just recently got a new life coach, which I'm very excited about. I believe that as a coach, I'm someone who always wants to grow, and I've done most of my growth by myself, but I've been looking for a life coach that I felt could really help take me to the next level. And I found one, and I'm very excited. I'm just starting my new 3 months with this person. He mentioned that when I have my podcast, I tend to just be very curious about the people who I'm interviewing. And he likes having just always being curious about other people be in the forefront, because I was talking about how I tend to be a bit of an introvert. I sometimes don't feel like going to certain events or whatever is in my area. And he said that for him, he feels that way as well. But then he likes to just let the curiosity towards the people he may lead and let that be the reason why he then ends up going anyway. A little bit more context to the conversation should be made. But really what I'm trying to share is that if you meet new people, if you let curiosity lead to just wanting to get to learn from everyone you meet, then that could lead to deeper conversations and friendships developing in the most beautiful ways. Ask yourself if there are any clubs or anything that potentially you could be interested in joining. The fifth point that I've written down is time for hobbies. And I've already kind of touched on this, but what is a hobby that you've been neglecting that you maybe could think would be fun to start doing again? Or maybe you've never done it and you want to start something. What are some hobbies that you would be curious about what it would feel like to have be a part of your life? And I feel like whenever we try out a new hobby or try a hobby that maybe we haven't done for a while, it's, you know, sometimes we're like, maybe I didn't get so much out of it. I think it's very rare that we regret going. It is very easy to say, I don't really feel like it right before. But when we've gone, oftentimes we're happy that we went, whether it's just because we had a laugh with someone and we haven't laughed in a while, or we saw someone that we haven't seen in a while, or we actually got something out of it. It actually brought our inner child back. And that's important. Connecting with our inner child, like having play in our everyday life, is so important. I try to implement play in my life every single day. Potentially don't seem like this on my social media, but I tend to be a very serious person. I also have fun, but I really want to every day make sure that I have some fun in my life, because it just makes life so much better. So what's a hobby that potentially during this time you could get back into? And the next point I've written down is emotional healing. During this time that I've had more time to myself, I have had an opportunity to get back in touch with my spiritual connection. Actually, I've noticed that many of you listening to these episodes are more spiritual than I originally had thought. I used to almost say, I'm sorry if I'm getting too woo-woo, but it seems like from getting you guys' messages and chatting with you that many of you are with me on the woo-woo stuff. But even if you think I'm crazy, that's all right as well. But I'm just going to share my personal experience. I have felt that during this time where I've spent a lot of time by myself, I have been able to connect with, I'm just going to say it, my angels on a deep, deep, deep level that I had not for a long time. When life gets busy, when we're around people, when we're doing things all the time, it can be hard to find that deep connection to spirit if you don't make it an intention to. And I have still been connected throughout the past, I said almost 7 years now, six or 7 years. I've been connected to spirit every day, meditating and journaling, but the level in which I'm able to do so can vary. And during this time by myself, I have really been able to seek guidance and get messages in a very powerful way. And I have been able to connect to my younger child and process certain trauma. Sounds dramatic, but let's just call it trauma, certain childhood traumas, and heal my younger self, my inner child that at certain times of my life felt hurt, not good enough, not worthy, not capable. And in case you're curious as to how I've done this, it's been both throughout my journaling, working through different experiences in my past, but also in my meditations, connecting with certain times in my life, in my childhood or younger teenager years, where I didn't feel seen or heard or good enough or worthy, unlovable. And as my current older self, gone in and taken care of that younger version of myself and seen the situations that I had gone through from my current eyes rather than the child eyes, right? Because when we're kids, we perceive the world in one way. And when we're older, when we grow up, get more life experience and more awareness, we can go back into the same exact situations and see the experiences from a different light. I'm sharing this with you because maybe that's something you feel called to do. Maybe you tomorrow in your morning meditation or right now, you pause me and you close your eyes and you think back to a time in your life where you felt hurt as a kid or unlovable or not worthy or just not whatever it is that you felt as your current self enter the situation and hold that younger version of you and communicate with that younger version of you and allow him or her to understand that they are lovable, that they are worthy, that they are good enough, and help them understand the situation from a completely new way that will help heal that younger version of yourself. So time with yourself can really help allow you to heal you. It could also be that you take that time to, dive deep into therapy. You have another, I've read so many self-development books. I'm literally a self-development nerd. So I think I've just taken so many tools from different people and things that I've heard time and time again. And then I've started finding my own ways of going about doing this myself, as in being my own therapist and healing myself. But many things, obviously, I won't be able to heal myself. I will need a therapist or a life coach or whatever healing experiences I need to work through certain things. But certain things I do believe that I am able to help myself heal, work through. So potentially you'd want to give it a try. The next thing I've written down, I'll walk through the final ones quickly, but is improved awareness in your relationships. I think that oftentimes when we separate ourselves from being in all of these relationships or living with someone or whatever it is, I believe that with that distance, we can really see the relationship and our part and also their part from a completely new perspective. We can see our own role, we can see their role. Sometimes when we're in the midst of it, it can be hard to see from above, but when we distance ourselves, that's when you really can go in and see the patterns that potentially you have, they have, see the dynamics from a completely different perspective. And so journaling on that can help you gain just more awareness of your role in relationships and work through how you want to be moving forward, how you want to shift, how you want to dive deeper into other things. Like maybe you're loving, but you want to be even more loving, or maybe you tend to allow your ego to get hurt and triggered whenever a person speaks to you in a certain way. Like you can really work through those things when you distance yourself from the relationship rather than being in the midst of it, inside of it. So maybe just analyze a little bit of these relationships so that you can better any relationships in your life moving forward. 2 final points I want to share with you. The first being freedom to explore. I've gone on a lot of little trips by myself during this time. I went to a Tony Robbins event. I've gone to so many events, traveled a little bit, done some of them here. And if you have time by yourself, it's really a beautiful time to explore and do new things that maybe you wouldn't have if you were in the comfort of your relationship or in the comfort of your home with your family. Explore, travel to new places that you've always wanted to travel to, and do it at your own speed. Oh my gosh, I love traveling by myself. I love the time with myself, and you can really do so without compromising anything, right? Just go and do and be whatever it is that you want. And that leads me to my final point, because that, I believe, can be challenging for certain people. Certain people do not like spending time with themselves. But the final point that I've also touched on a couple of times in this episode, but that I just find so important, is developing self-love. I believe that when we develop self-love and treat ourselves with so much love and kindness and respect, we're gonna want to spend time with ourselves. If we speak to ourselves with critical words, constantly telling ourselves how we suck at certain things, or we're not good enough, or we compare ourselves to others, obviously we're not gonna want to spend time with ourselves, because that is not very pleasant. So if you spend this time just developing awareness of when are you being negative, instantly shifting that negativity into positivity. Whenever you catch yourself saying anything negative towards yourself, instantly tell yourself something kind. The awareness is what can help us change. If we're unaware, we'll not be able to change. So step 1 is simply just being aware. And you may want to set a little challenge, a little goal for yourself, and say, this week, every time I hear myself saying anything negative towards myself, either like I'm going to give myself a compliment, I'm going to focus on one thing I did during the day that I can be grateful for. I'm going to, whatever it is that you're going to do that can really help you develop a more loving relationship towards yourself. If you were with a friend that constantly was telling you that you suck and that you're not good enough and that you're bad at your work and bad as a parent and bad as a person, obviously you wouldn't want to be around them. So since you are the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with, why would you not develop such a loving relationship with yourself so that you couldn't wait to spend time by yourself? You can't wait to just hear all the beautiful things that you have to say to yourself. And it can be challenging, I know that. When I first started my whole journey, I could not really be nice to myself. As in it was hard for me to appreciate myself for who I was because I didn't really like myself. So it's just about starting small. Like you may not be able to tell yourself that you're the most incredible human being in the entire world because you're so far from believing that. But you can start off by saying the way that you treated that little child today was really kind. The fact that you showed up to the office with your baked goods from this weekend, that was really, really nice of you. What a lovely, beautiful thing for you to do for your coworkers. The way that you smiled to that stranger, maybe that stranger needed it. And even though you didn't really feel like smiling, you smiled. That was amazing that you did that. You can start so small, start appreciating such tiny little things. And then eventually you can challenge yourself to go a little bit further and be a little bit kinder and a little bit more self-loving towards yourself the more that you practice it. Because this podcast is called Challenge Your Norm. And the more we challenge ourselves to go for these things that we know long-term are going to make us feel the most happy and fulfilled in our life, the better life gets. And I hope that no matter whether you're in a transformational chapter or maybe you just have not spent enough time with yourself and you need to put time aside on your schedule to do something. I hope that one thing I shared today sparked something in you that you're willing to do this next week to grow in whatever way you feel called to grow at this very moment of your life. If you enjoyed this podcast episode, it would mean the world to me if you would be willing to follow it wherever you're listening or watching, because then we can have more beautiful conversations like this. Share it with a friend if you found that it was useful for you and it maybe could be useful for someone else. That really helps me grow, and this podcast is something I am very passionate about. And if you want to join my January Transformation Challenge, I'll put the links below. I would love to have you in there. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you go out there and have a beautiful day. And as always, remember that in order for you to grow, you have to challenge your norm.